afternoon, everyone. So we are now into the first session for post-lunch, at least my lunch. And I'm very pleased to welcome Michael Cunningham. He is a very well-known, I would say, a friend of the industry. Michael is a top-notch headhunter specializing in the print and packaging world. He's based out of Australia. And he is also the CEO and co-founder of Connect APAC, which is a top-notch specialist headhunting firm based out of Australia. So Michael has a lot of experience. I have had a lot of engagement with him prior to setting up this session. And today he's going to talk about how recruitments are done in the print and packaging industry. This is going to be a very interesting session for both seasoned professional in the industry, as well as for budding youngsters who are looking for jobs, straight out of college. So without wasting much word and much time, I hand over to Michael. Michael, welcome to Packimpressions, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Pankaj. Much appreciated. If you just give me a quick second here, I'll share my screen for you all. Okay, I think you should all be on there. You should all be able to see that there. So obviously, Pankaj, thanks very much. Thank you for everyone for your time today, tuning in live, watching this in the video afterwards, whatever it may be, and obviously thanks to the Packimpressions team for for hosting such a great event, and obviously letting myself and Connect be a part of that. So as Pankaj touched on there, I'm going to do obviously a bit of a talk on the people in the packaging industry, how best to hire people moving forward for your business, and I suppose that a lot of the challenges that employers have been facing currently, historically, and obviously some ways that we can actually go out and encounter those as well. So obviously, yeah, for those who haven't spoke to me previously, I'm Mike Cunningham, and I run a specialist recruitment company and work solely in that kind of print and packaging space across Asia Pacific. So let's just quickly pop onto the next screen. So I'll do a very quick introduction into Connect APAC, just so you know who we are. So I suppose that we work with a lot of major household brands and packaging manufacturers, distributors, and different printers. We're actually founded earlier this year, so in 2020. It was actually founded about 3 weeks before this pandemic all kicked off. So looking back in hindsight, I think we could have popped a global pandemic into our SWOT analysis as a potential threat. But looking forward, I think that we're obviously very specialist in our areas. We're a group of three guys who'd worked together for anywhere between 5 and 7 years across our respective markets. Working more for the, I suppose, larger corporate recruitment agencies, and we had a kind of idea of going out and creating a bit more of a personalized service, both on behalf of clients and candidates, not just your kind of typical off-the-shelf recruitment approach, which can be drawn out in that kind of corporate environment. So I think typically in recruitment, candidates and clients on both sides, the aim is to work with as many people as possible, and we really want to kind of create a much more, I suppose, kind of boutique-y a service where we're always accessible for a smaller bunch of clients and service and candidates, where we can really provide that personalized service and understand them, in effect, how they want to grow and better their business or better their careers. Again, we're very focused on our actual kind of industries that we work in. We've deliberately kept that small, just so we can obviously go out and build and develop strong networks in this space and continue to be, I suppose, very relevant towards our kind of select industries. So myself, as I mentioned, I kind of focus on the print, the packaging, generally looking over positions across your sales, operations, production, and design at that kind of mid to senior level. So I think one thing which is obviously important to talk about, because I think every industry has been affected, is obviously COVID-19. There's certainly been a lot of changes to recruiting throughout the time. So now I think first and foremost, I really look forward to the day that that COVID-19 is a thing that we're not discussing in a kind of daily conversations. It's a thing of the past. I mean, I'm obviously talking to people all day, every day, and from clients, from candidates' perspective, it's something that we talk about all the time. And obviously it's affected everybody globally. And what else will be thrown at us? I think it's completely anybody's guess. I think if we were to do this event a year ago, and I was to mention that I thought the whole world, or not just kind of our country where we live, would be locked down and not our houses, you'd think I was an absolute madman. So yeah, I think what's coming next, we're not totally sure of, but I think one thing that we've learned is how to kind of adapt and overcome certain challenges that have been thrown at us that we normally wouldn't anticipate. So I think when COVID first exploded, I kind of had a bit of a panic myself, and all kind of positions that I was recruiting for dropped off, or they went on hold. And I actually chucked an article out on LinkedIn with as you can see, the main picture there is my kind of main front, and it's all about leaders in the industry and how they needed to use this as a time to kind of step up and step ahead of their competition, and I think obviously just kind of lead from the front for a lot of the people in the businesses. But I think a lot of industries and probably most industries globally have been kind of pretty beat up by this. But what we've actually found is most of your packaging manufacturers, with some kind of small exceptions of your maybe some of your food service guys who, initially when it all kicked off and restaurants and cafes were closed and they weren't supplying as much kind of product, etc. But most of the packaging organizations and the manufacturers that we've dealt with over the years actually really thrived throughout this time. So I think when it kicked off, March, April, May, they were absolute, not just killer months, but absolute kind of record breaking sales months for some of our clients. So I think compared to other industries, that kind of packaging space is one that I think certainly kind of thrived throughout the COVID pandemic. So now, obviously, for any kind of major change, there's going to be some notable changes, and one of the things that we've actually found is there's a lot of kind of notable changes, and candidates, I suppose, more so now are starting to be a little more picky and look for different things. So one of the key things that we've actually found throughout this time is we're in a market now where it's very candidate driven. So popular opinion might kind of go against that, where I think if you're looking at people who are out of work and people who have suffered in that event, it can be very employer driven with lots of people in the market. However, with the people who are in jobs at the moment, pretty content in their roles, they're becoming extremely picky with moving on for new opportunities for a number of different reasons. And a lot of the search and a lot of our kind of talent acquisition is all becoming about the actual candidate and their individual needs at the moment. So there's obviously a lot of insecurity with candidates going out and looking to leave roles. They've been a lot more cautious. Employers are having to go out and offer more. Obviously one of the big key things is you're working from home, or a little bit of flexibility. Which we all work from home with Zoom, etc. But I think a lot more people now can even look for flexibility with dropping the kids off at school, or starting a little bit later and finishing later, or starting earlier and finishing earlier, and all that kind of stuff as well. I mean, the working from home flexibility is probably one of the biggest talking points that we're actually finding when speaking to candidates at the moment, unless obviously they're in that major manufacturing environment when it's essential to be on the floor. So other things we're finding is video is becoming much more accepted as not just for interviews, but as I suppose that kind of social interaction as a whole. Not just interviews, catch-ups, meetings, calls with clients, all that kind of stuff is all done through video now. And then we're actually finding a few changes in salaries in the industry as well. So a couple of different ways this is working. You've got your people who are out of work and are perhaps lowering their salaries as an opportunity to get into the market. So, for example, you might have somebody who was normally on $100,000, or they were previously on $100,000, and they're looking for a role now and say, look, I'll take the role for $85,000. Makes me more competitive, and I need to bring money in to pay the mortgage, feed the kids, whatever it might be. And then on the flip side of that as well, salaries are slightly going up with your in-demand skill sets as well, and where there's a real kind of small candidate pool, then obviously with candidates being a bit more picky, that it's obviously driving salaries up for those guys as well. But I suppose what we're really seeing as well outside of that is companies being a lot more creative and resourceful, I suppose, with what they're doing. I mean, I saw a fantastic post on LinkedIn. We're going back probably about 2 months ago. It's a food business based in the US, and the MD was on there, and he was talking about how he's now doing all his meetings over Zoom. And he's not flying around the country going to meet clients and customers all the time. He said, of course, there are times where you've got to get on a plane, you've got to have that face-to-face interaction, but we're probably going to really, really minimize that down. So he said that what we've actually found is we've got all this extra money that we would normally spend on corporate travel and hotels and eating out, etc. He said, and with that money, we're actually going to start pumping it back through our business and invest in more sustainable packaging. So obviously with ourselves, the brand of our products getting out there a lot better. It's better for the environment and all that good stuff as well. So I think there's a lot of companies are becoming a lot more resourceful with how they're working and things that they're actually doing as well. But I think one thing that companies are still trying to get a hold of, and they're not quite we haven't kind of quite thought through it yet, is that kind of real pillar of how they're going about attracting the key people for their organization. So what we've found is obviously through the COVID pandemic. So what is it that the employers are learning through this process? And I think one of the ones is there's a real kind of demand for companies and industries. It's not just your typical kind of spaces before that were appealing to the market as a whole. What we're finding now is we're really looking for kind of COVID safe or COVID proof, as safe can be kind of businesses. So for example, I've recently been working with a corrugated cardboard manufacturer in Australia here, and we've been looking to bring some people from outside the packaging industry in, and part of the process for us in going and attracting those people is educating these guys outside of the industry of the power and the importance that the industry actually plays as a role. The different markets they work in, whether it's working in the e-commerce space, which is a booming market now of everybody ordering things from online, or you're working with all the food and beverage companies where all your supermarket shelves are fully stocked, so there's a high demand there, and then suddenly you've got something that is a typical kind of brown corrugated cardboard box, which actually becomes very, very appealing for people to actually come in and actually go out and sell. So I touched earlier, obviously, on the kind of virtual side as well. Virtual interviews are now a thing of the norm. Previously suggesting a Zoom interview or a Zoom meetup would have been probably a little bit odd, and occurred only if you couldn't get people out, or you're looking at international or kind of interstate relocations and all that kind of stuff. And I think we're actually finding a lot of professionals actually just really the magic word is pivoted, but really thinking how they perform in their role and their actual kind of purpose, and how to make best use of their time. So through, I think one of my clients through COVID had a team of account managers who were constantly out on the road visiting clients and dropping off samples, etc. And they've now obviously had to adapt to a more kind of internal process where they speak to clients on the phone and speak to clients, via Zoom, etc. And what they've actually found is they've freed up a lot more of their time, so that they're not out, sitting in traffic for an hour every day. They're not out just, making small talk here and there and trying to get in. They're being really, really productive with their time. Every single meeting they're going in, they have an extra 20, 30 minutes to really go and prepare. They're bringing people in, like delivery drivers to actually go off and drop samples, things like that. So just freeing people up and actually evaluating what your role is and where the importance to put your time is. I know even if I look at my own business here, I think pre-COVID, I'd be in my car all day long. I'd be driving around Sydney to meet 3 or 4 people for interviews in different cafes and stuff like that. Realistically now I can sit here, I can sit in the office, and I can set myself up with 8, 9, 10 interviews a day, and I'm being doubly as productive. So people are really kind of shifting and pivoting about how they actually go and perform their roles. One other thing that is absolutely key is the company's reputation. I think particularly what's happened through really, really tough times where the whole globe has been affected, and I think people are really going to remember companies for what they've done in the past, and I suppose how they've actually treated their staff through these tough times. Obviously particularly industries that aren't massive, like that print and packaging space. People talk and how people are being treated is definitely a major decision influencer, I think, in candidates' decisions when looking to join companies now. The location of roles as well is something that doesn't particularly kind of limit a talent pool. There's certain positions where there isn't a need to work in an office. So of course people can work from anywhere. People can start working remote. We've had roles that would typically be placed in Sydney. We've got people in Melbourne, up in Brisbane, who can perform the role from their computer and fly up to Sydney as and when needed. Every couple of months, every 3 months or so. So location is really not a major issue for the market as well. And I think it's now changing a little bit where companies are having to really go out and sell themselves to the market. It's no longer a case of the candidate coming into an interview and really, really pitching themselves to a company. Now it's almost a kind of role reverse, and businesses are having to paint a picture of why they're good for people in the industry, and what they've done and to bring people in, and how others are trying to catch up to them. And one thing we've actually done as a business throughout this time is really looking at when we're engaging people, is not just looking at a standard job description and website. Almost anybody can go and get something like that. So we actually looking at really delving into kind of candidate packs, we're calling them, which is essentially it's inside stories of the business. It tells the story of the business and how they got to where they are, why people enjoy working for them, and it's something that's probably tells a bit more of a real picture of that company, as opposed to a standard position description, which lists a load of requirements and responsibilities that was probably written by Susie in the HR department 4 years ago, and she's probably left the business 2 years ago. So that's something else we're finding as well, as companies are really having to go and sell themselves, and even the way they present themselves to the market. And then typically as well, some of the cool things that was seen as kind of perks previously, your table tennis or tables or free lunch Fridays, etc. They're almost not of importance to people anymore. I mean, number one, you're not in the office most of the time anyway. But I think now people are more focused on the principles of a company, and what are your morals? Do you care for your customers? Do you deliver for your customers? Do you support them through thick and thin? And that's what people are, I suppose, want to see, as opposed to kind of those free lunches or those table tennis sessions or early finish Fridays, etc. that we're kind of previously seeing. So now obviously there's some things that haven't changed through COVID. It's not changed absolutely everything in the industry. And I think some key things there is, number one is experience is always important for people in the market and companies when hiring, but the soft skills is what we find really sets candidates apart. So on paper, if you've got two people and all technical skills and experience are equal, the soft skills, that's what people are deciding on when looking at bringing people in for jobs. They're companies are using situational based interviewing and behavior questions to evaluate these kind of soft skills. But I suppose one thing that we're really finding is if you're looking at people, bringing in similar people who can add to that culture and that kind of drive and need to deliver, companies are going to become a lot more successful. So I think another thing we've actually learned is companies are still looking to kind of streamline those processes, and probably more so now, because I think there's a real need to go out there and hire the top talent in the market. So if businesses have got real kind of slow interview processes, and I'm sure we've all been involved in a long and slow interview process at some point, candidates become disengaged, they get different roles, etc. So I think the speed of organizations in going out and sorting out these hiring processes, that's the thing that makes a difference to going out and getting that highly sought after talent in the industry, or the up and comer, the guy who's just graduated and he's looking for his first role where he can pass his knowledge on and soak up a wealth of knowledge from other people in the industry. And the kind of final and absolute kind of key thing for us is the employer value proposition. It's as important as ever for anything. Beyond salary, people are looking for a real kind of sense of purpose and meaning when it comes to work. So professionals are a lot less likely to be happy these days with just a good salary, potentially a bonus at the end of the year if you tick X, Y, and Z and hit your KPIs. And instead, they're looking for more non-monetary benefits, and want to know that what the work that they're doing actually goes and it means something. So what are you? Are you a sustainable business who is well ahead of the 2025 packaging targets that we've got here in Australia? Are you kind of aligning with some of these kind of core values? What's your kind of your real kind of USP in the market? So yeah, they're the things that we found have actually kind of stayed pretty stable. But I think obviously summarizing, I think the market is changed. Candidates again are very, very high demand, and what we're actually finding is your kind of traditional hiring methods are becoming a lot more outdated. I'll talk about those kind of hiring methods shortly. But I mean, for example, if we look at the kind of top talent in the market, we're finding that more increasingly these guys they're not hanging out on job boards as long as they'd like to. It's not that they're not interested in opportunities. Everyone's interested in opportunities, but it's because the security that they found in their roles at the moment. There's lots of maybe different recruiters in the industry who are going out and copying and pasting different clients' roles and sticking it all over your monster.com or your seek.com. And a lot of candidates will go into these things. They submit their resumes into this magical recruitment database, and then they never actually get heard from again. A lot of people, your traditional cold calls or emails, in mails, a lot of people aren't responding to people if they don't have some sort of kind of personal relationship with them. The approach can be quite off-putting, and it can be quite damaging to certain companies' brands when they're actually going out there in the market, particularly if they're reaching out to a large number of people. So I mean, you can easily do a search on LinkedIn for recruiters do not contact, and you'll probably find a few profiles that will pop up. What we're also finding is a lot of businesses, most people that I speak to, particularly when I'm reaching out to them for the first time, they actually still rely heavily on job boards. Your kind of LinkedIn network in there, internal kind of HR email databases as that kind of main source of candidates. So what we always find is probably around about 15 to 20% of people in that kind of talent pool. I'm talking specifically across you're talking consumer, FMCG, and your kind of packaging market. Only about 20% of those people are actively looking at any one time. So these are all kind of pre-COVID stats, but that's 80 to 85% of the talent pool that is essentially untouched and unaware of companies' kind of current hiring or future hiring needs. So what we find is, like I said earlier, given that the guys tend to be the very, very well qualified, the ones who are in the roles at the moment, relying on those kind of, let's say, outdated recruitment methods, it can leave hiring managers, leave leaders of businesses, whoever it might be, with real kind of limited access to I suppose, those kind of top people in their markets. So, and I suppose, there's a real kind of lack of access to for those hiring companies for that talent in the market, and I suppose with a weak employer value proposition, which we discussed earlier, to really go out and attract those top performers. It's really kind of limiting the actual pool of candidates who's available to the business. So what we're finding is there's a real war for talent at the moment. So whether that's your junior up and coming guys, or the guys who've been in the industry for quite a while, there's a real war for talent out there within the industry. I've been talking about this for years, but I think it's even more relevant now that unemployment's at a real high. It's very, very incredibly hard to actually go and find people. If you find somebody who's in a role, counter offers are normal, because businesses don't want to lose good people. Multiple offers for candidates is normal now, because good people in the market, everyone's crying for them, so they're getting multiple offers on the table. So it's all about that employer value proposition and the overall candidate experience that they're actually gonna go through. So, I mean, obviously, look, we talked about it. Things have changed. Whether that's for better, whether that's for worse, we've got to work with it. So we've just got to kind of move on, and kind of ride the punches, if you will. So, but obviously unemployment's high. Lots of people have been laid off. They've been furloughed. I think a lot of companies' mindsets are different now as well. We're finding that as recruiters in our space, we hear a lot of people saying that we don't need recruiters now to do our hiring. We can post a position online and we'll get a lot of candidates come through, which I think is a really reasonable assumption. It might not be the complete correct assumption, and I think if you're looking at some guys, some real kind of your mid-range talent, somebody can go in and get the job done. That's absolutely fine. But right now, particularly in a kind of a time in the world where we've got to be going out, we've got to be growing, excelling. You really need to dive deeper into that market. I think with companies letting people go, they've got to do the same amount of work with less people. So they're not letting go the best or the brightest of their people. They're normally looking at people who might be marginal, or they can afford to let go. So the best people they've got in their business, they're very, very likely to keep. And I think that's a kind of someone will look at it very generally. I don't think that's the case in all cases. Certainly not in all industries. And I've come across some very good people who have been laid off. But as a general rule, that's what we've actually found. And obviously I touched it again. People in the market are very, very risk averse, very hesitant about moving into a new role. If we spoke to someone a year ago, they can get a new job. If it doesn't work out, they go and get another one. Now that's not the case anymore. People are kind of if they're in a stable employment, they're actually looking to stay there. So there's certain hiring problems. I think that as a leader, an MD, a GM of a business, talent acquisition professional, whoever you might be, there's some kind of common problems out there in the industry. I mean, hiring is actually getting very expensive. With salary levels increasing, you could be wasting money on poor advertising, recruitment fees for people who don't work out, whatever it might be. There's the caliber of the people might just not be there in the market. You can put a job advert up, you get 200 people come through, but the actual kind of talent pool, the caliber just isn't there. We find it's taking too long for business to fill kind of critical roles as well. All those, I mentioned those top people in the market, they're staying on the market for around about 10 days. At that point, they're getting multiple offers coming through. So if you're a business who likes to post a job advert for 30 days and you've got, an absolute kind of top guy there, they're going to be off the market 30 days later when you're actually looking to put your offers out there. Obviously, project deadlines are being impacted. which can obviously increase workload for some people internally inside the business, and obviously lead to some kind of high turnover rates for companies. There can be a lack of, if you've got a relationship with certain recruiters who, most internal or external recruitment partners are generally generalists and work across a number of different spaces. There can be a lack of industry knowledge and kind of lack of understanding there. And I think another key thing is your company's opportunities aren't getting put out there to the whole market. They're getting put out to that kind of select 20% of the market. So yeah. Now, obviously, we've talked about these kind of active candidate pools, the job boards, etc. Which I think there's a lot of, particularly students will come out and search on online different job boards, find jobs, putting their resume through. But there's so much competition at the moment. You've got to think a little bit more strategically about how you're going to go out there, how you're going to get yourself in front of these businesses, and I'd really suggest looking for someone who's a specialist in your area with connections across. If you're a packaging technologist, across that vertical, whether it's your flexible packagings or cardboard packaging, whatever it might be, who can actually go out and introduce you to certain businesses, whether it's for initial internships or going in entry-level roles or even your more kind of senior roles. Really kind of look at what you're doing. Are you doing something that everybody else is doing in the industry, or can you tailor something to make you stand out a little bit more? Now, obviously, these problems for a lot of companies, lots of different job ads up all the time, and as a rule of thumb, I think job advertisements are quite poor. They're a list of requirements and responsibilities, and they don't really actually delve into the actual individuals and what that individual is going to get out of coming on board and working for that company. So there's a number of obviously impacts of looking at all these kind of specific areas. You've got less candidate coverage. You're looking at that small part of the market, 20% of the market. There's a lack of transparency potentially when candidates are coming through, because they're talking to multiple different companies. There may not be a kind of complete robust search going into it, and there's obviously a lack of warranty there. Once you go through and you get your final shortlist in the process, if your preferred candidate would pull out the process, where's your backup? What do you do from there? Where do you go from there? So I think typically a lot of HR teams and recruitment companies, when a search ends, they tend not to resume unless the candidates presented actually don't produce an actual hire at the end. So I won't keep you too much longer now. We're coming to the end, but I think some things of what businesses can do, and I think candidates in the market can take this on board as well. But I think one key thing is we're in a world where we're more connected more than ever. Even more now with COVID, and I think that the internet's just a massive big adventure, and it's only almost just beginning. I think we all walk around with smartphones in our hands. It's the remote control of our lives. It connects us to almost everybody. So if you as a business, you're not going out there and putting out relevant content, or even as a candidate who's looking for a new role, and align yourself and present your LinkedIn profile with all your keywords and as being that kind of up and comer, or that kind of leader in your space, you're really missing an area. I think it's a little bit of attention, going in and putting attention. We're all online. You can all jump on anyone's profile at any one time. So to put some time into that and really look at what we can actually do. We're in a world now where a few years ago, if you want to get yourself out there, you'd have to buy a TV commercial or radio ad. Now people, they can't get on radio, they're making their own podcasts. They're starting YouTube channels. There's a great way for people to actually go out there and actually really kind of market themselves or market their business to kind of potential candidate pool. Looking at partnering as well, and I think it's massively important to partner yourself with someone who can go and sell your business to the market. If you're a candidate partner with someone who can go and sell you to the market, really uncover what it is that's great about yourself to get you in front of people. Find someone, if you're a business who's hiring, you're looking for international talent, and at the moment it's hard because there's different restrictions coming in from overseas, and you just can't bring people overseas at the moment. Find someone who will build you candidate pools who match that criteria that you're after, engage some interest in your business, and then at the point when you guys are ready to hire and you're ready to press go, half the job's already done. You're actually moving through that hiring process a lot quicker. You're keeping candidates engaged. And then, obviously, companies look at how you're developing people and share those success stories with the industry. How you're retaining staff, and how many people leave your business, and why. What are you doing to keep that kind of top talent in the industry?
Michael, we got to wind off. We have crossed our.
Yeah. All good, Pankaj. That's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. Let me. There we go.
I really apologize because it's a live show, right? Time is overrun, but I think it was wonderful. Really good to get your perspective. And I think, there are a couple of points which came out from the questions. Unfortunately, we ate into the question answer time. But then, it's something that I would just like to take, summarizing all the 4 or 5 questions that we had. One point which people are typically asking is that in the situation right now, when especially when you are on the job market looking for a job, when you are restricted to meet people, companies are not really looking at filling up vacancies because they're making existing staff take up more roles. What do you suggest or advise an aspiring candidate looking for his first job, or maybe someone who's looking for a change, or maybe who has got laid off, looking for a new job? What exactly would you recommend that he or she should do?
So I think there's a number of different things, but I think the one thing to remember is we're in a mad world at the minute, where you've got to be patient, and there's no magic button that you can go out and press and get opportunities. I think the one key thing is persistence, looking outside the norm, and not just seeing a role advertised online and sending your resume through, because that recruiter, that hiring manager is probably going to have 100, 150 resumes to look through. So maybe doing some research and find out who that hiring manager is, connecting with them on LinkedIn, send them a little follow-up email, or a follow-up phone call. If you don't hear anything back again, then maybe set yourself kind of 2-3 days blocks. If there's an opportunity you're really interested in, make that initial point of contact, follow up, connect with them on LinkedIn, drop them an email, give them a phone call a few days later. These are things that, when people are hiring, they're busy people. And I suppose, I had somebody earlier today. I was, quite busy doing a few things, and the same person phoned me twice, and who kind of reached out to me for a role that I'm recruiting. I thought, there's something about this person that I quite like. They're determined, they're persistent, and I think just look outside of the box, and think what else you can do. Are you sending a resume through, or are you going to send a resume and a small screenshot of some work that you've done previously and why you're particularly relevant for that role?
Excellent. I'm afraid I have to wind it off right now. Michael, thank you very much. It was a wonderful session, and thank you for supporting us, and look forward to interacting with some of our future sessions as we go up.
Thanks.
Have a good evening and a great weekend. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we are now into the first session for post-lunch, at least my lunch. And I'm very pleased to welcome Michael Cunningham. He is a very well-known, I would say, a friend of the industry. Michael is a top-notch headhunter specializing in the print and packaging world. He's based out of Australia. And he is also the CEO and co-founder of Connect APAC, which is a top-notch specialist headhunting firm based out of Australia. So Michael has a lot of experience. I have had a lot of engagement with him prior to setting up this session. And today he's going to talk about how recruitments are done in the print and packaging industry. This is going to be a very interesting session for both seasoned professional in the industry as well as for budding youngsters who are looking for jobs straight out of college. So without wasting much word and much